Hey, hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited to show you guys this tutorial I've created for you. I hope you guys find it helpful, but basically we're going to be setting up either an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller so that you can play air simulator battles. Now, whether you're in console or whether you're in PC, you can, if you're on PC, you can take the controller, plug it right into the PC, you should be able to play with it and configure it by following this video. But basically, you'll be able to fly simulator battles without having to use a joystick, rudder pedals, or track IR. You'll be able to do just about everything with the controller. Please have a keyboard on the side. There's a few accessory keybinds that we will set up on the keyboard. The reason for that, guys, is because there's way too many things to configure on the controller. So I've tried my best to keep this binding map as clean as possible, so that you guys don't have to do mental gymnastics to remember a very large number of keybinds. So anyways, with that said, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So this right here, this is the primary flight operations control, and I want to give you guys a quick note. This may look simple, and you might want to take it and run with it and configure it without watching the rest of the video, but I implore that you bear with me, stay with me for a few minutes, and let me walk you through, because some of these configurations are not as intuitive, such as the access controls. You might misconfigure them if you don't know what you're doing. So, by the way, this control schema works perfectly for props and jets alike. So you don't need to change anything to fly props or jets. You should be able to use this same thing I'm going to teach you how to configure here for both props and jets. So right here, if you look up to the left here, you're going to see LT and then followed by a parenthesis, L2. Guys, if it's inside the parenthesis, that is the PlayStation equivalent of the Xbox controller button. So LT is referring to the left trigger on the Xbox, and then in parentheses L2, that would be L2 on the PlayStation. So this right here, this is the primary flight operations controls. This is what you're going to use to fly your aircraft and employ your weapons. This is your basic fighter controls. And this next configuration right here, this is the secondary flight operations controls. This is a subset that you can enable by pressing the down D-pad. So if you press and hold the down D-pad and you use the combinations by pressing a different button, for example, you hold the down D-pad and you press the B button on the Xbox, that would be the circle on the PlayStation, you can change the radar search mode, for example. Or if you hold down the D-pad and you press the left trigger, or L2 on the PlayStation, you can tilt the radar down, so you can scan a lower section of the sky. And likewise, if you press and hold the down D-pad and you move the right stick, you'll be able to control a bullpup that you launched remotely. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into War Thunder and set this up. Alright guys, now that we're in War Thunder and we're in the main menu, we're going to go up here to the top left, go to Controls. Now, whatever you have in here, doesn't matter, it's not going to look at mine right now, but whatever it is that you have in here, please, we're going to do three things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to save it. So you're going to save it, you're going to give it a name, you're going to save it. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to save it again, but with the name of the new file that you want to create and use as the air simulator controls. So make sure that the name is relevant to the air simulator controls when you save it the second time, because that's the one we're going to edit. The third step is we're going to load the file that we want to edit. So let's do first step, where we save what we currently have, right? So whatever it is that you have, give it a name right now. Give it a name. Call it my original War Thunder controls, and then save it. I'm not going to do that because I already have this saved. So once you've done that, you're going to save it again, and this time you're going to give it the new name. So you're going to say my air simulator controls. So the second time you save it, you're going to please name it my air simulator controls, or something relevant to air simulator so that you can find it easily. So once you've done that, save it. And then the third step is you're going to load the file that we want to edit. We want to edit the air simulator control one. So for me, in this case, it's this one. So I want to edit this. Now, once you're into the air simulator controls file, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do clear all. You're going to down here to this button. You're going to clear everything out of it. You're going to get this menu. Don't worry about any of this. Just click close. And now you should have an empty file. This is what we're going to work with. don't worry about SAS or anything else. Please just follow the guide. I will configure all the other stuff on the keyboard later, so I'll help you guys do that as well. For now, let's focus on the controller and the primary control. So let's go to movement, and let's go ahead and configure our pitch, roll, and yaw. So you're going to see this right here. Just delete it. So let's grab our controller, double click on roll axis, click on auto detect axis, and your left stick, your left analog stick, you're going to move it left and right. For the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the dead zone and take it away. For those of you who don't know, the dead zone is basically a range, right, in your control that when you actually like push it, it does nothing. This is only useful if, for example, if you have a controller and the controller has a problem where you're getting ghost input. A ghost input is basically when the controller is making inputs without you even touching it. When that's happening, you can slowly increase its number, test it again, see if it's taking effect. And that should help you get rid of that problem. But if you don't have any issues, just set it for 0. Alright, we're done with that. Click OK. Go to pitch. Couple things in here. Click auto detect. Up, down on the left analog stick. Once you got that, you're good to go. For right now, you're going to go ahead and take the dead zone off and make sure you invert the axis. Alright, that's it. Next, we're going to go ahead and set up the yaw axis. Now, if you're following our guide, you're going to see that for the yaw, we're actually going to configure it using the left trigger and the right trigger. That's going to be in the PlayStation, the L2 button and the R2 button. So for maximum value, we're going to set up maximum value here. Make sure you please do not do auto detect this time. Just do maximum value. This is going to be the right rudder. So we're going to do the right trigger, aka that's going to be the R2 button on the PlayStation. Minimum value, that's going to be left. So in this case, we're going to do LT. So that's going to be L2 on the PlayStation. Next, same thing. Dead zone, please take it out unless you have ghost input. Click OK. And we're done with that. The next thing you're going to do is a sensitivity. All this is how quickly is what you are doing in your controller transferring to the game. In other words, it's a simple delay in whatever it is that you touch on your stick. For example, if you put this at 100%, when you push the stick to the right or to the left, whatever you do on the stick, it's going to transfer instantaneously to the game. This is really good if you have a joystick, because a joystick has a big range of motion. It's a large stick, large range of motion. So this is good to keep at 100 if you have a joystick. But if you don't have a joystick and you have a PlayStation or an Xbox controller with a tiny stick, you probably want this to be at like 20%, maybe even less. Depending on what your skill is, just put these two at 20%. If you feel it's too fast still, reduce it even further. I'm going to put mine at 20% for now. Yaw sensitivity. These are the Whoops. Alright. Yaw sensitivity. These are the triggers. So the triggers are... We can keep this at 70. We'll keep this at 70, and the reason for this is because this is your rudder. If you feel, when we test it, if you feel like this is too fast, just go ahead and take it down. I'll put mine at 40. Let's do 40. Alright. We're done with this. We've done roll, pitch, and rudder controls. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and configure the throttle. So if we look back at the map, you're going to see that we're configuring the throttle to be the Y in the PlayStation, that would be the triangle, or the A, aka the X on PlayStation for slowing down. Now, this might be odd to you guys, but believe me, when you have a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, this works really well with how I'm going to set it up for you guys, and I'm going to show you how that works. So double click on it, maximum value. We're going to do Y on the Xbox controller and triangle on the PlayStation. Minimum value, A on the Xbox, X on the PlayStation. Dead zone doesn't really matter because we're not using an axis. Now, this is very important. Relative control. Enable relative control. Relative sensitivity, put it at 50. Relative control step, put it up all the way. What this is going to do is, let's say that you're going to take off. If you hold Y to accelerate, the throttle is going to go up continuously. So it's almost as if you're pushing it with your hand. If you hold the triangle or Y to increase the throttle, it's going to go up gradually. If you tap it, if you tap Y or tap A, the throttle is going to go up by 25% up or down each time you press it. So if you press Y, for example, 2 times, just tap it 2 times, it's going to put your throttle at 50%. If you tap it 4 times, it's going to put your throttle at 100%. You're going to go ahead. You see how it says hold throttle for WEP? Go ahead and set this to no. What this is going to do is, let's say that you've pressed Y 4 times. You tapped it 4 times, and now your speed or your throttle is at 100%. If you press the throttle 1 more time, it's going to go into WEP. So that's what we want. Set this to no so that you don't have to hold that all the time. And the next thing we're going to set up is the guns. So we're going to go down to weaponry. Now if you look at the map binding, the little map I created for you guys, you're going to see small caliber guns. We're going to put that into the left bumper, or the L1 button on the PlayStation. Large calibers are going to be in the right bumper, or R1 button on the PlayStation. And we're also going to add additional guns to that same key. We're going to go ahead and set a button to fire our secondary. We don't need a button to fire our primary weapons, guys. Don't worry about this. If you look at the map, we configured B on the Xbox controller, or in this case, the circle on the PlayStation. We configure that to be the fire secondary weapons. That's all we need in this case. So fire secondary weapons, bind it to B in the Xbox, circle on the PlayStation. Switch primary weapons. We don't need this. We need switch secondary weapons. For that, we're going to press the wait button or the share button on the PlayStation. Hey everyone, just a quick note here. I just now realized that I made a quick mistake here. The wait button or share button on the PlayStation might not be an option if you are actually playing on that console. Because that button probably has an external function unique to the console. I don't know. Just if that's an issue, if you can't use a share button or the wait button, like I was just instructing you to do, please just use the keyboard and bind your weapons change key to the number 2 on the keyboard. So also the back button. There we go. All right. Now, while we're here, we're going to set up a button so that we can switch primary weapons. That's going to be on the keyboard. So just press the 1 on the keyboard. 2 to switch secondary weapons, and secondary ripple quantity. So this is going to help us determine how many, for example, how many bombs we drop per pickle. So every time you press the drop secondary weapon, the fire secondary weapon, every time you press that, how many drop? That's what ripple quantity is. All right, so now that we've set up a way to fire our primary and secondary weapons, and we defined a way to swap secondary weapons and the ripple quantity using the keyboard, we're going to go ahead and do the defensive countermeasures. So since we're using a PlayStation controller, there's going to be a couple of limitations. You can definitely get around them if you later on down the line, if you feel confident and you want to switch up the layout. By all means, feel free. But for simplicity's sake, we're going to set the fire countermeasures button to be the X on the Xbox controller. So that's going to be X on the Xbox controller. However, on the PlayStation, that's going to be the square button. Okay. So for the square button, we're going to set the fire countermeasures. What this is going to do, when you press the fire countermeasures button, it's going to fire both flares and chaff at the same time. All right, we're going to go ahead and configure the flaps and the Airbrake. So we're going to go ahead and do toggle flaps. That's going to be the right D-pad as seen on the map. So toggle flaps, and then the toggle Airbrake, we're going to do left on the D-pad. We're going to go ahead and set up the radar ACM mode. That's what's called. It's called ACM mode. That's what's actually call them the real plane or in DCS, but War Thunder calls it something else. We're gonna do radar, and it's this one right here, within visual range combat. You're gonna do up on the D-pad on this one. Guys, this is very important. The reason that I'm using up on the D-pad is because when you're in fighter jets, things happen very quickly. Sometimes you're not going to have time to remember what keybind exactly you put for ACM mode or within visual range mode so that your radar can automatically acquire a target. So the easiest way is to make it extremely accessible. You just hit up on the D-pad, and that's going to put your radar on ACM mode, which will pick whatever it is in front of it. This is very important, guys. The next thing we're going to set up is going to be the camera controls. So this is going to allow you to look around you as if you had track IR or virtual reality, but it's going to be in camera control. So on the thing here, just click camera control, and it's going to be right here. View in battle, X-axis. So this is going to be left and right movement on the head. View in battle, Y-axis is going to be up and down. So for now, let's do the X-axis. Guys, there's a couple things in here, and you need to make sure you don't mess it up. So please bear with me. This is very important. So hit auto detect axis right here. Now you're going to move your right stick left and right. The next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you keep value for disabled axis and do relative control, and just leave it like this and disable the dead zone. Reset axis value. This is very important. Make sure that you basically click the right stick in. On the Xbox, you can just press the stick inward. On the PlayStation, it should be just, it's called R3 in this case. So the right stick, just press it inside. What this is going to do is when you press the right stick inside, it's going to center your view. So instead of you having to manually center the view, you can just click the right stick in and it'll automatically center your view. It's a really quick way to look ahead. Now you're going to rinse and repeat for the Y-axis. So auto detect, up and down. Reset axis value, same thing, guys. Reset axis value has to be on the same button. Click the right stick in. Make sure you click add, not replace. Guys, make sure you click the add key, not the replace key. If you click the replace key, it's going to take it away from the X-axis, and you don't want that. So make sure you click add. Take away the dead zone. Keep value for disabled axis and relative control. Then click OK. One more thing that's going to help you guys look around very smoothly is by enabling camera smoothness. So get this value and put it at 50%. Make sure that it's at 50%. You can find this value here in common controls, and it's going to be right here. Camera smoothness, 50%. Basically, this is going to make your head movement more natural. It's not going to be so abrupt. All right, turn on the engine. And let's use our right stick to look around. And as you can see, the exact expected results are in. So that's me looking around with my right stick. If I push the right stick in, boom, it centers the view. So that's exactly what we want. So this is going to help you guys keep. So for example, if you're dogfighting with somebody and you want to look towards them, you can position the camera in that direction and you can keep it there. And you can do minor adjustments on it. It's going to help you also to look at ground targets. And if you, for example, if you're looking back and you need to recenter the view, just press it in and boom, it centers it really quick. Whoops. All right. One more thing, guys. Please make sure that you go up here to the tab Common Zoom Camera and just double click in here and make sure that you press in the left stick. This is going to be the left stick. You're going to control your zoom with this. So when you click the left stick, it'll zoom in all the way, and then click it again, it'll zoom out all the way. Now, the reason that I'm putting this in the left stick, which is the stick that you use to manipulate the aircraft, like turn left, right, roll, up, down, is because it's almost like aiming down the sights, kind of. You can think of it that way. When you're flying, you're shooting at somebody, you can you know, your thumb is literally in it as you're flying. So you just press it in, you can zoom in, get a better shot. That's the reason that's there. All right, guys. So let's pull up our key bindings map, and we're gonna configure a couple things. So we're not gonna go ahead and do the secondary flat operation controls. I named this secondary because this is going to be radar operation. We're going to do a couple of functions such as being able to position the head on your plane a little bit higher or a little bit lower using the controller. It's really easy, and it's going to help you look over the nose if you're flying props. And we're going to configure a way to essentially control fired weapons. For example, like a bullpup. If you fire a bullpup, with this configuration, you'll be able to aim the missile with the right stick. Let's go ahead and do that. Before we go into the configurations, there's a couple things we need to do. If you look at the map notes over here, you're going to see that the last bullet point over there says you must go to options and search for radar, then toggle on target cyclic switching of aircraft radar, and then you're going to have to turn off constant elevation of radar antenna. This is very important because if you don't do this in AirSim, you won't be able to manipulate the elevation of your radar. And with a PS4 controller, you also won't be able to select the target. So let's go ahead and do that. So right here, type radar. This is in the options menu, not the controller menu. We're going to make sure that target cyclic switching of aircraft radar is on and constant elevation of radar antenna is set to no. So please make sure these two settings are set like that. And you know, while we're here, we're gonna go ahead and set up a quality of life thing, I suppose you could say. Let me see, common battle. So if you click right here, navigation, common battle settings, I like to have shake, camera shake, and sense of flight. Matter of fact, it's too low. I like having this all the way up. Essentially, what camera shake is just going to make your camera shake while you're flying. And sense of flight is going to make it so that, for example, when you pull high G's on the aircraft, you know, you bank left, bank right, the head is going to move left, right, back, almost like as if you were inside the aircraft. So for you guys, go ahead and just set this to 0 and 0 if you guys are starting to fly AirSim now. This is going to ensure that your head doesn't move, you know, as the aircraft turns. And now let's go back into controls and let's go ahead and begin setting up our radar controls, guys. So up here on the search bar, type radar. And this one right here, this is the ACM mode that we already configured on the primary. So we're not going to touch it, we're going to leave that as is. Alright guys, as it says on this notes, so if you look at the notes right here, you're going to see that the first bullet point says all actions in this panel are activated by holding the down D-pad first. So once you're holding down the down D-pad, then you can press whatever other button you need. So I'm calling the down D-pad the enable button. So to turn the radar on or off, we're going to press down D-pad. And while holding the down D-pad, we're going to press await, the back or share button on the PlayStation. There we go. That's going to turn the radar on and off. Now to switch between radar and infrared search mode, all right, we're going to do the left bumper, or on the PlayStation, it's going to be the L1 button. So we're going to do down D-pad. While holding down D-pad, you're going to press L1 or the left bumper. Now we're going to go ahead and change radar mode. So down D-pad and then right bumper, or just allow you to switch between SRC mode, or search mode, or TWS mode. That's what this does. This is pretty obvious. This switches between radar and infrared search. This is really good on the, well, you can only really use this on the Russian jets like the MiG-29 and the Su-27s. All right, the next thing we're going to do right here. So change radar search mode. As the second bullet point says in our map, the radar search mode essentially controls the scan azimuth of the radar. So, like for example, if you press this button, your radar can scan hypothetically 100 degrees to 120 degrees to the left and 120 degrees to the right. So it's going to search in that cone, and if you press it, it can swap between that and 60 degrees. So it shortens the search cone. That's really good because that allows your antenna to essentially go left, right faster, which allows you to get a higher resolution on the target. It's very circumstantial when you use this. For example, typically when I'm scanning, I'll use a wide scan, so like 100 degrees left and right, something like that, to find the target. Once I know that there's an enemy there, I narrow it down and I switch to 60 degrees. And then I can get a higher resolution on that target by getting a faster scan on it. So we're going to go ahead and set radar search mode, down D-pad, and then B on the Xbox, which would be the circle on the PlayStation. There we go. Now we're going to change radar scope scale. Now, as you can see again on the bullet points, the radar scope controls the distance that your radar searches. So 10 miles, 30 miles, 100 miles. For this, we're going to use the X on the Xbox, which would be the square on the PlayStation. So down D-pad, and then X on the Xbox or square on the PlayStation. Guys, make sure that you're doing the combination of both buttons. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and select the we're going to put a key for the select target to lock button for the radar. This is basically going to allow you to swap targets. So if you have 5 targets, 5 potential enemies on the radar, and you press this button, your radar Q is going to hover over it. It's not going to lock them unless you're in TWS and it does a soft lock, but it's just going to hover the Q over them. We're going to use down D-pad and then the Y or the triangle on the PlayStation. And finally, the lock target, which we're going to designate as down D-pad and A on the Xbox, which is X on the PlayStation. There you go. So this is going to allow you to actually lock that target. So first, you select the target with select target to lock. And then once you have the target you want to, if you have to do an STT on it or single target track or block the target, then you can do the lock. This right here, the tilt control axis, is going to allow us to basically move the radar elevation up and move the radar elevation down. This is very important because, for example, guys, let's say that you're flying 50 feet off the ground and your radar can't look up far enough. If there's a target really high up, you're really low. You don't want to go higher because for whatever reason you're trying to not get picked up by radars, or you're trying to hide from the enemy, so you don't want to increase your altitude. You want to stay at 50 feet off the ground. And there's a contrail that you see 30,000 feet up in the air, and your radar is just not picking them up. So what you do is you can tilt the radar dish upwards. You can tilt it up slightly until you can actually pick that target up. That's what this is going to allow you to do. It's really useful also if you're flying really low, for example, like really low, like 50 feet off the ground, and your radar doesn't have pulse Doppler, you only have SRC, and you don't want to deal with ground clutter. What you can do is you can slightly elevate the radar elevation, just enough so that it doesn't pick up the ground. That's one tactic you can do. You can do it with this. So the way we're going to do this is, since we're using, if you look at the map right here, we're using the left trigger, L2 on the PlayStation, or the right trigger, R2 on the PlayStation. So we're not going to use auto detect axis, so do not select this. So maximum value in this case, do the right trigger. Now, the right trigger, guys, R2, is already assigned to the rudder, the yaw right. But that's fine, don't worry. Just hit add. And then do the same thing, but for the left trigger. Again, it's going to say that it's assigned to the yaw left. Just add. Now, this is only going to work if we do enable access. So for the enable access key, we're going to do down D-pad. So in order to control your radar elevation, first you hold down D-pad, and then you can use the triggers to modify your radar elevation. So let's see. All right. So the next thing you need to do, disable the dead zone unless you have ghost input. We're going to go ahead and do keep value for disabled access. We're going to do that. And we're actually not going to do relative control right now. All right, guys. the next thing we're going to set up is the key bindings so that we can essentially control a missile that we fire, such as a bullpup. So right here, we're going to use, so again, we're going to do enable axis, so down D-pad. So this is only, make sure that you click add, guys. It's very important you click add. This is only going to work as long as we're holding down the down D-pad. So let's say that you fire a bullpup. You know, level out your aircraft, hold down D-pad, and then with the right stick you'll be able to control this. So this is yaw, this is left and right. So the right stick, just move it left and right. Make sure that you take the dead zone away, and this should be good like this. We shouldn't have to do anything else to it. Up next, pitch axis for weapons. So we're gonna go up and down, and make sure that you enable the axis. So click add here, take away the dead zone, and good to go. No problems there. All right. Finally, there's one more thing, and that's the camera. Sometimes there are cases where you're flying a prop plane and you can't see a lot over the HUD. So sometimes you want to move your head upwards or downwards. So for that, again, down here, enable. We're going to do the down D-pad. Click add, and then auto detect axis. So for this, we're going to use the left stick, up and down. So left stick, up and down. And once you've done that, dead zone, so take this out and do keep value for disabled axis. Keep this like that. We're going to want to reset this also. And just for this, just do down D-pad and then click the left stick inward. And that's actually going to reset your view. You need to enable relative control. And let's go ahead and put this at 50%. We can test it. So down D-pad, move your head up. If you press and hold, and there you go. It stays right there. So this is going to help you guys look over the nose of the aircraft in some prop planes. And then if you do down D-pad and you press inward, it resets it. All right. So we're essentially done with the primary and secondary control keybinds. But now I'm going to show you guys the keybinds for the keyboard. So right here on the screen, if you want, you can take a picture of this. But please go through each of these and set it up. It's very important that you set these up because they're going to help you essentially control all the parts that you need to control about the aircraft. So let's see. So for the trimming, guys, the trimming is very important. So if we go to trimming, we're going to go to elevator trim axis right here. Okay, just follow along. So this is the elevator trim axis. So this is up and down trim, right? So maximum value, I want you to use the up arrow key on this one, and then do the down arrow key on the minimum value. We don't really need the dead zone. It's irrelevant in this case. Keep value for disabled access. Yes. Relative control. Yes. 50% for the sensitivity. And please do 1% for relative control step. Please ensure that it looks exactly like this. We're going to replicate this across the board with the aileron. So here's the aileron trim axis. Maximum value, that's right. Minimum value, that's left. Disabled axis, yes. Dead zone, irrelevant. Relative control, 50, and then 1%. There you go. Since we're in the match already, we can go ahead and test this right now. So I'm going to hit the up arrow key. As you can see, my elevator trim is increasing by 1 every time I hit it. And if I hit right, for example, the aileron goes right each time I press it. Press left, goes left once. And if you hold it, it goes up a lot. And then you can tap it, and then it goes up to whatever you want it to be. So there you go, guys. Really easy way to set up your trim using your keyboard. So that was the trimming done on the keyboard, guys. The only other thing that you might want to take a look at is right here, the wing sweep. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do this one, but it's very, very, very similar to the trim. Just replicate whatever it is I showed you to do on the trim. Just replicate it for the wing sweep, and the only difference is you're going to use the other keybinds over here. The left bracket, right bracket, and forward slash. Right here toward the top, guys, you're going to see right mouse click, weapon lock, air to ground. For those of you that don't know, this is very important. So when you're flying something like an F-16 or whatever, something that has a T-pod, and you swap over to the T-pod view, you can actually control the T-pod with a mouse, which is really helpful. And the way that you're going to designate a target is by hitting that right mouse button on top of the target. So that's the reason I made that the right mouse button. It's very accessible and very easy and convenient. As far as that goes, you can go ahead and configure everything else that you see in here in the simulator. And feel free to change anything. The sensitivities, you're going to have to play with the sensitivities for pitch and roll and yaw for the aircraft. They may or may not be too fast or slow for you. Just figure out what works best for you guys. Again, to reiterate what I said before, please remember that I'm going to pin a comment to the comment section, and I'm also going to add it to the description of the video, the timestamp for all of this, and I am also going to put in there a quick description of some controls. If you guys, hopefully if you don't know what that control does, you'll know what it does then when I put the description. And one last thing, guys, just remember that I have a small Discord community that I'm trying to build up. You guys are more than welcome to join that. You guys can talk to me through there or message me or whatever, feel free. The link to that is in the description. I truly hope that you guys found this tutorial helpful. I'm genuinely trying to help as many people as I can. And I hope that this encourages some of you to get into sim. Yeah, so I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this. God bless all of you. Goodbye.